Imagine holding a penny in your hand that looks so ordinary, so unremarkable, that most people would toss it into a jar and never think twice. Now imagine that very same penny one you could easily find in change, tucked in a drawer, or forgotten in a coffee can being worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, even pushing close to $1 million. Sounds impossible, right? But tonight, we're going to uncover one of the most shocking secrets in American coinage. The 1964 no-mint mark Lincoln cent, a coin so deceptively common that it hides in plain sight. And yet, in the right condition, it has sold for jaw-dropping sums that could change someone's life overnight. Here's the catch. Millions of these coins were struck in 1964. Most are worth only face value a single cent, but a handful, a microscopic fraction, carry qualities so rare, so pristine, that collectors are willing to pay astronomical amounts for them. The record? Nearly $1 million, $9,679,000 for a penny that cost the U.S. government less than a cent to produce. And that's not folklore, not rumor, it's cold, hard fact backed by real sales. So the question becomes, could one of these tiny treasures be sitting in your home right now? The story begins in the turbulent 1960s. America was in the middle of profound change. Civil rights marches, the Vietnam conflict, the assassination of a president. Amid the upheaval, even the world of coinage wasn't immune to disruption. In 1964, the U.S. Mint was under tremendous pressure. A coin shortage was sweeping the nation. Banks couldn't keep enough pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters in stock. People hoarded change, fearing that silver and copper were becoming too valuable to let go. To meet the demand, the mint produced an astonishing number of coins, billions of them in 1964 alone. Lincoln cents were pumped out in quantities so huge it was like a flood of copper spilling into circulation. But here's where the story takes a sharp turn. The vast majority of those coins were unremarkable, struck quickly, and sent out the door. Yet some were struck with extraordinary precision on flawless copper planchettes, and somehow avoided the scratches, nicks, and wear that usually destroy a coin's perfection. These are the coins that survive today as pristine relics of 1964, a year when America's pennies were meant to be plentiful. But a few turned out to be priceless. And then there's the mysterious detail that makes the hunt so thrilling: no mint mark. That's right. Unlike coins from Denver or San Francisco, which carry a tiny D or S beneath the date, the Philadelphia Mint produced coins with no identifying mark at all. To the untrained eye, a 1964 penny without a mint mark seems utterly average. It looks just like the billions of others. But hidden in that lack of distinction lies the possibility of extraordinary value. Because when condition, rarity, and collector demand collide, what looks worthless can become a fortune. Pause for a moment. Think about how many times you've brushed past a penny on the ground or tossed one into a tip jar. Have you ever wondered if you just walked away from a small fortune? That's not exaggeration. That's the uncomfortable truth. People have unknowingly let these treasures slip through their hands for decades. And yet, every once in a while, One resurfaces, shining like a copper time capsule, and collectors go wild. So, what makes one 1964 penny worth $1 million while another is worth just 1 cent? The answer is brutal and unforgiving condition. In coin collecting, the top tier is known as mint state. A mint state coin is one that shows virtually no signs of wear, with sharp details and blazing luster, as if it had just rolled off the press yesterday. And among mint state coins, only the finest survive at the highest grades MS66, MS67, even MS68. Those numbers may sound small, but each step up represents a chasm in value. One grade lower, and you might have a coin worth a few $100s. One grade higher, and suddenly you're in the stratosphere, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions. Collectors pay these staggering prices because they know just how fragile perfection is. Think about it. Billions of coins bouncing around in bags, shipped across the country. Spent in stores, rattling around in pockets. The chance of one surviving with flawless surfaces is microscopic. And that's what drives the frenzy. It's not just a coin, it's a miracle of survival. Here's another twist. Many people assume the big money in coins comes from exotic errors, like double strikes or missing designs. And yes, those can be valuable. But the 1964 no-mint mark Lincoln cent proves that sometimes rarity isn't about what's different, it's about what's perfect. The coin doesn't need a dramatic flaw to be worth a fortune. All it needs is to exist in pristine condition. In a world where virtually all its brothers and sisters were scarred and battered into oblivion. But let me make this personal. Right now, as you listen, there could be a box of old change in your closet, a jar in your kitchen, a drawer in your desk, holding one of these extraordinary survivors. You wouldn't know it just by glancing. It takes close inspection, sometimes even professional grading, to reveal whether you're looking at pocket change or a life-changing windfall. And time is not on your side. Every year, more coins are lost, damaged, or melted down. The pool of survivors shrinks, and the value of the few that remain climbs higher and higher. Imagine finding one. Imagine walking into a coin dealer with a penny and walking out with a check for a new car, a new house, or a retirement fund. It sounds like a fantasy, but for those who've stumbled upon these treasures, it's reality. Here's where things get even more fascinating. The record-breaking sales aren't just one-off flukes. Over the past decade, the market for rare Lincoln cents has exploded. Collectors compete fiercely at auctions, each one driven by the fear of missing the next big score. It's not just about owning a piece of history, it's about owning the best of the best. And the best 1964 no-mint mark penny can command prices that sound more like lottery winnings than coin collecting. Still skeptical? Let me give you a sharp reality check. A 1964 penny in average circulated condition is worth 1 cent. A 1964 penny in lightly circulated condition maybe $1 or $2. But when you cross into uncirculated territory, the numbers climb fast. $50, $500, 5,000. At the top end, coins certified at MS-67 and beyond are the ones that ignite bidding wars. And when two determined collectors lock horns, the price skyrockets. That's how you get to $999,000 for a penny that most people overlook. And here's a humorous thought. People spend hours scratching off lottery tickets, chasing odds of 1 in millions, when in reality, the loose change in their pocket might already be their golden ticket. Isn't it ironic? The fortune you're looking for might be the fortune you've been spending. So, what should you do? The answer is simple, but urgent. Check your pennies. Every single one. Don't dismiss them as petty copper discs. Look at the date, 1964. Look below the date, no mint mark. And if you find one in especially sharp condition, smooth surfaces, crisp details, a shine that seems out of place, don't spend it. Don't toss it. Don't ignore it. That's the moment you set it aside and you consult a professional grading service. Because that penny could be the difference between pocket change and life change. And here's the final cliffhanger I'll leave you with. We're talking about just one coin, 1 year, one type of cent. But the world of rare coins is vast. Hidden among your everyday change are nickels, dimes, quarters, even modern coins minted in the last decade that are already commanding thousands at auction. The 1964 no mint mark Lincoln cent is just the tip of the iceberg. The story that should shake you awake to the reality that treasure is hiding in plain sight. So the next time you see a penny, stop. Look closer. Ask yourself, is this one of the billions? Or is this the one? Because one single cent hiding in your possession could be worth nearly $1 million. And the only way to find out is to start looking before someone else does. Now tell me, how many pennies have you ignored today? And what if one of them was the fortune you've been waiting for all your life? The one you'd normally ignore or even toss aside could be worth more than a Lamborghini or a beach house, or enough money to walk into retirement without ever looking back. Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But what if I told you that a single copper-colored coin from 1968, a Lincoln 1-cent piece with no mint mark, has shocked collectors and investors by selling for nearly $1 million at auction? Yes, you heard that right. $991,000 for a penny most people wouldn't even bother to bend down and pick up off the sidewalk. This isn't a fairy tale. It's a real story hidden in plain sight, buried in the loose change of America. And if you think that you're safe to ignore those little brown coins at the bottom of your drawers, you may want to reconsider, because there could be a life-changing fortune staring you in the face. Now? Why would anyone pay close to $1 million for a penny? Let's unravel the mystery, because once you understand, you'll never look at your pocket change the same way again. The first thing you need to know is that the 1968 Lincoln penny was struck in multiple locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The mint marks, those tiny letters under the date, are the key to knowing where a coin was made. Normally, pennies struck in Philadelphia during that period should have had a mint mark. But the twist: Some slipped out without one. No mint mark at all. And those mistakes, those tiny errors invisible to most people, created one of the most coveted treasures in American coinage. It's the perfect storm, rarity, error, and demand colliding in one small disc of copper. Imagine the thrill of holding a penny that turns out to be one of perhaps just a handful known to exist. Collectors will fight tooth and nail for it. Investors circle like hawks. The price climbs higher and higher until the number no longer looks real. And here's the kicker. This isn't just about history. It's about opportunity. Because while most of the world sleeps on pennies, dismissing them as worthless relics of small change, you now know there are a few out there that can rival the value of fine art or a luxury home. Let me give you a glimpse into the market frenzy. A 1968 no-mint mark Lincoln sent in pristine, uncirculated condition has commanded prices well into the hundreds of thousands. And at its peak, nearly $1 million. Just imagine being the person who dug through an old coin jar, brushed off a dusty cent, and discovered they were holding a once-in-a-lifetime jackpot. That's not just wealth, that's transformation. But before we rush to the finish line, let's peel back the curtain and explore how this all came to be. The late 1960s were a turbulent time for America-Vietnam. Civil rights, protests in the streets. Amidst all this chaos, the U.S. Mint was also juggling massive coin production to meet demand. And when millions of pennies are struck in high-speed presses, mistakes happen. Most go unnoticed. A misaligned die here, a weak strike there. But the absence of a mint mark, that was a whisper of error that turned into a roar once collectors began to notice. Think about it. How many people in 1968 casually spent those pennies, never realizing they were holding a fortune in their palm? Someone might have used one to buy a soda, another to make change at a gas station. Each one unknowingly passing along a tiny lottery ticket, disguised as a coin. Now here's where things get really interesting. The 1968 no-mint mark penny isn't just rare, it's shrouded in mystery. Experts debate how many actually exist. Some say only a handful. Others whisper about hidden hoards locked away, waiting to surface. That uncertainty is like gasoline on the fire of demand. And collectors, they thrive on uncertainty. Because the less we know, the more valuable the coin becomes. So let me ask you, have you ever really looked at your pennies? Not just glanced, but inspected. Have you tilted them under the light, studied the date, checked for that tiny mint mark under the year? Most people don't. They're too busy, too dismissive, too sure that pennies can't matter. And that's the tragedy, because fortunes are missed every single day simply because people don't take the time to look. Here's the twist. Even circulated examples, ones that have been rattling around in pockets and purses for decades, can still fetch staggering sums if authenticated. Sure, the top condition coins, the ones that look almost untouched by time, bring the most money. But even a lower grade find could mean thousands, tens of thousands, maybe more. Wouldn't you rather check than risk letting that fortune slip by unnoticed? And it's not just about this one coin. The 1968 no mint mark penny is a doorway into an entire hidden world of rare coins that most people walk past every single day. It's like living on top of a gold mine, but never picking up a shovel. Once you see the potential, you'll never handle change the same way again. Let's step into the shoes of someone who made this discovery. Imagine an ordinary evening you're rolling coins, maybe preparing to cash them in at the bank. You flip a penny over, and something feels off. The date reads 1968, but beneath the year, there's nothing. No D, no S, just empty space. Your heart skips a beat. You rush to a magnifying glass, and yes, it's real. That moment could turn your world upside down. Now picture the auction floor. The room is buzzing, collectors raising paddles, voices quickening as the bids climb higher. 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. The air is electric. And when the final hammer comes down at nearly $1 million, all because of a penny, you realize that hidden wealth isn't just a possibility, it's happening right now. What does this mean for you? It means urgency, because coins like this don't sit around waiting to be found forever. Every year, more disappear into private collections, locked away for decades, maybe forever. The window is closing, and the longer you wait to check your change, the slimmer your chances become. Let me ask you, how many times have you tossed pennies into a jar without thinking? How many have you let pile up in your car cup holder or given away without a second glance? Each time, you could have been handing away a fortune. Doesn't that thought sting just a little? But here's the good news. Knowledge is power. Now that you know what to look for, you have an edge most people don't. You're not blind to the possibilities anymore. And that means you have a shot at discovering what others overlook. The 1968 no mint mark penny is more than a coin, it's a reminder that value hides where we least expect it. That sometimes the smallest things carry the greatest rewards. And that a little attention, a little curiosity, can lead to life-changing results. So here's my challenge to you. Don't just finish this video and move on. Take action. Tonight, go to that jar, that box, that forgotten drawer. Pull out your pennies. Study them. Look for the date 1968. Search beneath it for that missing mint mark. Because if it's not there, you may just be holding one of the rarest and most valuable coins in American history. And even if you don't find this exact coin, the habit you build, the vigilance, the curiosity, will open the door to other discoveries. There are dozens of coins out there worth far more than face value, just waiting for someone like you to spot them. Think of it this way. Every penny you touch is a lottery ticket. Most are worth nothing more than a cent, but a few can rewrite your future. And unlike the lottery, you don't have to buy in. The tickets are already in your possession. You just have to notice. So, will you ignore the chance? Let it slip away like everyone else? Or will you take the opportunity, dig deeper, and maybe, just maybe, uncover a fortune hiding in plain sight? Remember this. Fortunes are never lost because they don't exist. They're lost because people fail to see them. Don't let that be your story. The next $1 million penny could be sitting in your pocket right now. Check your coins. The clock is ticking. Just one ordinary-looking copper coin, something you've handled thousands of times, could secretly be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, possibly even millions. Sounds like a fairy tale, doesn't it? But what if I told you it's not? Hidden among the countless pennies struck by the U.S. Mint is a 1975 Lincoln cent with the Denver Mint mark. A coin so elusive, so mysterious, that collectors and experts whisper about it with reverence. This tiny disc of copper and zinc, something most people wouldn't bend down to pick up off the street, has been reported in auction records fetching up to $986,000 in pristine condition. And yes, that's nearly $1 million. For a penny, the shocking truth is this: some of the world's rarest treasures are not buried in the sands of Egypt or locked away in the vaults of billionaires. They're in your change jar. They're rattling around inside old coffee tins in your garage. They may even be sitting in the drawer of that desk you haven't opened in years. And the 1975D Lincoln cent is one of those treasures. A ghost coin with a reputation that has left collectors sleepless at night. Now here's the twist. The U.S. Mint never officially released a Lincoln cent dated 1975 with a Denver Mint mark. Go ahead, look through the official Mint archives. You'll find 1974D cents. You'll find 1976D bicentennial issues. But 1975, nothing. And that's what makes the story so electrifying. The coins that do exist, scattered, mysterious survivors, shouldn't exist at all. Imagine discovering a penny that history itself says should be impossible. That's the allure, the danger, and the opportunity of the 1975D Lincoln cent. So how did such a phantom come into being? The prevailing theory is tied to the chaos of the mid-1970s. The Mint was preparing for America's bicentennial celebrations, striking quarters, halves, and dollars with dual 1776 to 1976 dates. The Lincoln cent wasn't supposed to carry a 1975 date, but mistakes happen, and when you're striking billions of coins under immense pressure, mistakes can slip through the cracks. A small handful of experimental or transitional strikes may have escaped the Mint's scrutiny, and the few that did are now legends in the world of numismatics. And here's where things get spine-tingling. Unlike famous coins that are well documented, the 1975D cent carries an air of mystery. Some numismatists claim they've seen them change hands privately for staggering sums, prices approaching $1 million. Others argue they're still out there, waiting to be discovered, perhaps lying unnoticed in a box of old coins inherited from a grandparent. Could the penny in your possession be one of them? That's the million-dollar question. Think about this. Every day, millions of Americans handle pennies without a second thought. You might leave them in the change tray at the gas station. You might sweep them off the counter into a jar, planning to roll them up someday, but never getting around to it. And yet, in that pile of overlooked change, there could be a single coin worth more than your car, more than your house, maybe even enough to rewrite your retirement plans. Isn't that chilling? Isn't that exhilarating? And it's not just theoretical. Rare pennies have shocked the market before. In 2010, a 1943 bronze Lincoln cent sold for over $1.7 million. In 2019, another fetched $204,000. The 1975D is part of that same lineage of anomalies coins that, by all logic, should not exist, yet do. When they appear, collectors will pay staggering amounts to own them. Because they're not just coins, they're pieces of American history. Missteps of the mint that become legends for generations. But let me pause here and ask you, when was the last time you actually looked at your pennies? I mean really looked. Not just glancing at the color, not just tossing them aside, but reading the date, checking the mint mark, feeling the weight of history in your hand. Most people haven't, and that's why the window of opportunity remains wide open. The average person doesn't know. The average person doesn't care. But those who do, those who take the time to examine, to learn, to pay attention, they're the ones who stumble upon fortunes that everyone else overlooks. Picture it. You're sitting at your kitchen table, sorting through an old jar of coins. Dust rises as you pour them out. Pennies from the 80s, the 90s. Even some shiny 2000s. Then suddenly, one coin catches your eye. The date reads 1975, and just beside the year, a tiny D stares back at you. Your heart stops. Your palms sweat. You scramble to double-check because you know what it could mean. And in that moment, you realize you're not just holding a penny. You're holding a key, a ticket. A 1 in a billion mistake that could change your financial destiny. Of course, not every 1975D cent you encounter will be the Holy Grail. In fact, most people may never find one. But here's the suspenseful part. The possibility is real, and it only takes one. Just one discovery, just one overlooked coin in circulation could tilt the scales of your entire life. And you know what's even scarier? Every day that passes, every time someone dumps pennies into a Coinstar machine, every time a collector passes away and their hoard gets scattered, more opportunities are lost forever. The market for rare coins is hotter than ever. Baby boomers are passing collections down. Gen X and millennials are fueling demand. And international investors are snapping up U.S. rarities like never before. Coins that once sold for a few $1,000s are now commanding six-figure sums. So imagine what happens when a coin as mysterious as the 1975D enters the spotlight again. The bidding war would be explosive. The headlines would be everywhere. And the value? Well, history tells us it could reach into the millions. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Skepticism. Some people laugh at the idea. A penny worth $1 million. Come on. But skeptics laughed when the 1913 Liberty nickel sold for over $3 million. They laughed when a dime minted in 1894 fetched nearly $2 million. They laughed when a penny from World War II, just another Lincoln, cent sold for 7 figures. The pattern is undeniable. The market rewards rarity, mistakes, and mystery. And the 1975D has all three in spades. And here's a little humor to cut the tension. We're talking about a coin most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up from a sticky movie theater floor. Yet that same coin could pay off your mortgage, buy you a sports car, and still leave you with enough left over to never think about pennies again. Isn't life strange? So what should you do? The first step is simple. Start looking. Don't underestimate that jar of change sitting in your house. Don't dismiss the pile of coins you've been meaning to cash in. Examine every Lincoln cent carefully, especially those from the mid-1970s. Look for that elusive 1975 date with a small D beneath the year. If you find one, don't clean it, don't alter it, and for heaven's sake, don't spend it. Get it authenticated immediately by a reputable grading service. And even if you don't stumble upon the $1 million prize, you may still uncover other valuable treasures along the way. 1969's doubled die cents worth tens of thousands. 1972 doubled dies. 1992 close-am varieties. 1999 wide M varieties. Each one is a reminder that fortune often hides in plain sight, waiting for the observant few who dare to look closer. So here we are at the end of this journey, and the choice lies before you. You can shrug this off, laugh about it, and go back to ignoring the coins in your pocket. Or you can seize the moment, pick up that jar, and start searching, because somewhere out there, right now, a 1975D Lincoln cent is waiting for someone to notice it. And when they do, when the next headline breaks about a penny fetching nearly $1 million, the only question will be, was it you who found it, or was it someone else? Time is the one resource you can't get back. Every day that passes is another chance lost. So don't wait. Don't hesitate. The wealth of a lifetime could be hiding in the smallest, most overlooked place imaginably, your change. And when you finally uncover it, remember this moment, because you'll know you didn't just hear a story. You lived it now. Let me ask you one final question. When you reach into your pocket tonight and feel that penny between your fingers, will you see just another coin? Or will you see possibility, destiny, and maybe even $1 million miracle? In 1977, millions of pennies rolled out of the U.S. Mint, clinking into pockets, cash registers, and piggy banks. Most were ordinary, brown copper coins worth exactly 1 cent, forgotten almost as quickly as they were spent. But hidden among them was a mystery so rare, so baffling, that one tiny error could transform a penny into a fortune. A fortune so large that collectors today whisper numbers in the hundreds of thousands. And in some cases, nearly $1 million. Yes, you heard that right. A single penny from 1977, without a visible mint mark, has been reported selling for up to $979,000 in pristine condition. Imagine dropping a coin like that into a vending machine by mistake. The thought alone makes your stomach turn. But here's the shocking twist. Thousands of Americans may already have one sitting quietly in a jar, a drawer, or even wedged between couch cushions. and most people will never know it. That's the tragedy. And the opportunity. Because the window to discover these hidden treasures is closing, as collectors snatch them up and supply dwindles. So what exactly is this elusive 1977 no mint mark Lincoln cent? Why does it exist? And how could a coin that should only buy you a gumball suddenly be worth enough to buy you a house? To answer that, we need to travel back to the mid-1970s. A turbulent time for the U.S. economy. Inflation was eating away at paychecks. The price of copper was skyrocketing, and the mint was under enormous pressure to churn out billions of coins each year. Mistakes happened. Tiny, almost invisible mistakes, like forgetting to stamp a mint mark on a die before it went into production. Most people would never notice. But coin collectors, known for their eagle eyes and obsession with details, notice everything, and that's where rarity is born. The missing mint mark isn't just an accident, it's a doorway into a world where supply shrinks to near zero, while demand climbs to the heavens. The rarer the coin, the higher the bidding wars. And when wealthy collectors battle it out for ownership, prices explode. Here's the kicker. Not every 1977 penny without a mint mark is valuable. Philadelphia struck coins in 1977 without mint marks on purpose because Philadelphia didn't use them at the time. But that's what makes the story so tantalizing. Because buried among the ordinary are specific examples that defy the rules, coins that should never have existed, yet somehow slipped into circulation. Think of it like fishing in a lake where 99% of the fish are minnows. But hidden somewhere beneath the water swims a golden trout worth $1 million. You could cast your line 100 times and pull up nothing of value. But the one time you land that golden fish, your life changes forever. So what does one of these extraordinary coins actually look like? At first glance, it seems unremarkable. Lincoln's familiar profile, the date 1977, and no mint mark. But condition is everything. The $1 million examples aren't scratched-up pocket change. They're pristine survivors, coins that somehow escaped decades of wear. Numismatists grade them on a scale, and at the very top, called mint state or even proof-like, the prices soar to breathtaking levels. One report cites a gem-quality 1977 no mint mark Lincoln cent selling for $979,000. And that sale shook the coin world to its core. Now, you might be thinking, well, that's great, but the chances of finding one must be impossible. And here's where the suspense sharpens. Because history proves otherwise. Ordinary Americans, not seasoned collectors, have stumbled upon life-changing coins in the most unexpected places. A man in Ohio once found a six-figure penny in his child's lunch money. A woman cleaning out her late father's belongings discovered a coin collection that paid off her mortgage. These aren't fairy tales, they're documented cases of rare coins resurfacing decades later, waiting for the right eyes to notice. And the truth is, pennies are everywhere. Unlike rare stamps or fine art, you don't need to inherit a vault or scour an auction. You might have hundreds of pennies sitting in a mason jar on your dresser, pennies you haven't bothered to count in years. What if one of them holds the power to rewrite your financial future? Let's pause here for a moment. Imagine reaching into that jar, pulling out a dull brown penny, and then realizing it's worth more than your car, more than your house. That moment of shock, of disbelief, of racing to Google the value, it's happening to people. And it could happen to you. Of course, the key is knowledge. Without it, you'll spend that coin at a gas station and never know what you lost. With it, you gain the chance to seize what others overlook. This is why the rare 1977 no-mint mark penny is such a phenomenon. It represents hidden wealth hiding in plain sight. Wealth that vanishes with the swipe of a cash register if you're not paying attention. But there's more to this story than just money. There's history. Every coin is a time capsule, a piece of America's past. When you hold a 1977 penny, you're holding a relic from the Carter era. When disco ruled the airwaves and Star Wars first hit the big screen. It's more than copper, culture, frozen in metal. And when that cultural artifact also happens to be a rare error, it becomes a collectible of national significance. Now, let me ask you this. Have you checked your change recently? When was the last time you actually looked at the date on a penny before tossing it aside? Most people don't bother. They see a penny as worthless, not even worth bending over to pick up. And yet, that tiny gesture of neglect could cost someone nearly $1 million. That's the cruel irony. Wealth is hiding in plain sight, dismissed as pocket lint. And here's a twist that should jolt you awake. Counterfeiters know this. Where value exists, forgery follows. Shady operators have tried to doctor ordinary coins, erasing mint marks or altering dates. That's why authenticity matters. If you think you've found a rare penny, don't run to the pawn shop. Consult a trusted numismatic expert or submit it to a professional grading service. They are the gatekeepers who can confirm whether you're holding an ordinary cent or a life-changing jackpot. But here's where the urgency kicks in. Every year that passes, fewer of these rare coins remain in circulation. They're discovered, graded, locked away in collections, never to re-enter pocket change again. That means the chances of finding one shrink with every passing day. The clock is ticking. Will you be one of the last people lucky enough to discover one in the wild door? Will you look back years from now, regretting that you never bothered to check? Let's not sugarcoat it. The odds are slim. But the payoff? Astronomical. And that's the beauty of the hunt. You're not risking thousands to chase a dream, you're simply paying attention to the pennies already passing through your hands. It's like playing the lottery where the ticket is free and the jackpot is life-faltering. And if you think it's silly to obsess over pennies, consider this. The 1943 copper penny sold for over $1 million. A 1955 double-die penny fetched 6 figures. Time and again, coins dismissed as trivial have shocked the market with eye-popping sales. The 1977 no-mint mark penny stands in that same legendary company, so the next time you receive change at the grocery store, don't just shove it into your pocket. Stop. Look. Pay attention. Because the difference between a penny and a payday could be staring you right in the face. Now picture this. You go home tonight, dump out your coin jar and start sifting. The coins feel cold and ordinary in your hands, clinking dully as they slide across the table. Then, suddenly, your eye catches the year 1977. Your heart skips. No mint mark. You pull it closer, your pulse racing. Could this be it? Could this humble coin be the golden ticket everyone else overlooked? That's the thrill. That's the possibility. And that's why you can't afford to ignore it, because somewhere out there, someone will find another one of these rare treasures. Someone will cash in on a coin worth hundreds of thousands, maybe even close to $1 million. The only question is, will it be you? Search, discover, act, before the last hidden fortune slips forever through your fingers. That in pristine condition it has commanded reported prices close to $1 million. Yes, you heard that right. A single ordinary-looking penny minted in 1982 at the Denver Mint can transform from 1 cent to nearly $1 million. And chances are, you might already have one sitting in a jar, tucked away in a drawer, or clinking at the bottom of your car's coup folder. The 1982 Lincoln 1-cent coin is not just a piece of metal. It's a relic of a turning point in American coinage. That year, the United States Mint faced a problem. Copper had become too expensive. A coin that was supposed to be worth 1 cent cost more than 1 cent to produce. And so, 1982 became the year of transition when the mint shifted from heavy copper coins to lighter zinc ones, coated only with a thin shell of copper. This transition wasn't seamless. Mistakes slipped through. Different dyes, metals, and sizes were all in play. And out of this chaotic storm came a handful of coins that should never have existed. The Ictea 1982D small date copper cents. Now here's where it gets jaw-dropping. These coins were struck on planchettes that technically belonged to the past. They weren't supposed to exist in 1982D small date form at all. Yet a few did. And the collector's market, driven by scarcity and fascination, has rewarded them with astronomical prices. One example reportedly reached $968,000 when brought to auction in top condition. Think about that. A penny you could toss aside, one you could lose in your couch cushions, might be more valuable than a new home, a luxury car, or even your entire retirement savings. But let's take a step back. Why is the small date such a big deal? If you look closely at the 1982 Lincoln cent, you'll see variations in the size and style of the date stamped on the front. Some have a large, bold 2. Others have a slimmer, sleeker 2. These are the large date and small date varieties. For collectors, the distinction is everything. And while both varieties exist in copper and zinc across Philadelphia and Denver mints, the rarest combination is the 1982D small date copper cent. Experts believe fewer than 20 may exist in any condition, and perhaps only a handful in the upper echelons of mint state grading. So, what does that mean for you? It means your pocket change could contain an American lottery ticket that doesn't look like one. It means your grandfather's coffee can of pennies might secretly be worth a small fortune. It means every time you pass up a pile of coins because it's just pennies, you could be walking away from life-changing money. And here's the kicker: many people already have. Imagine how many rare 1980 2D small-date copper cents have been unknowingly spent at gas stations, vending machines, or slipped into a child's piggy bank. That's the kind of thought that can keep a treasure hunter up at night. Collectors often compare the thrill of discovering one of these coins to stumbling upon buried treasure in your backyard. Think about it. Pirates had their gold doubloons. Prospectors had their nuggets in the California gold rush. And in our modern age, we have pennies that masquerade as pocket lint but hold the power of a treasure chest. The difference is, you don't need a map or a pickaxe. You just need your eyes, your hands, and a little bit of knowledge. But before you start tearing through every penny in your house, here's the twist you didn't see coming. Not every 1982 penny is valuable. In fact, most are worth only face value. That's the suspense of it all. To strike gold, you need to know exactly what to look for. First, the date must read 1982. Second, it must carry the D-Mint mark under the year, meaning it was minted in Denver. Third, the style of the date must be the small date version. And fourth, and this is crucial, the coin must weigh 3.1 grams, the weight of a copper cent, not 2.5 grams, which indicates the cheaper zinc variety. Get any of those wrong, and you're holding a common penny. But if all four line up, you could be holding history. And here's a little insider tip. Most of us can't eyeball the weight of a penny. That's where a simple digital scale becomes your best friend. For less than the cost of a fast food lunch, you can buy a pocket scale online and instantly separate the copper contenders from the zinc imposters. Imagine weighing a coin, seeing that magical 3.1 grams appear, and realizing you might be holding one of the rarest modern coins ever struck in the United States. That's not just exciting. That's electrifying. Now, some of you may be wondering, if these coins are so rare, how do we know they're really out there? And why should we believe they're worth nearly $1 million? The answer is rooted in cold, hard market data. Auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers have documented sales of rare error and transition coins that consistently reach 6 and even 7 figures. Collectors are willing to pay because they know the odds of finding another are slim to none. The 1982D small date copper cent is the perfect storm of rarity, historical significance, and demand. That's why when one comes to market, it sets collectors buzzing and wallets opening. And let me tell you something that might make you laugh. Every year, without fail, someone says, "I wish I could win the lottery." Meanwhile, their loose change could literally be their ticket. The lottery is random. Checking your pennies, that's deliberate, and the odds, for those willing to search, might be far better than hoping for Powerball. But the story doesn't end with just the 1982D small date copper cent. The entire year of 1982 is a maze of varieties that can trip up even experienced collectors. There are 7 official varieties in total: large date copper, small date copper, large date zinc, small date zinc, and so on, across both Philadelphia and Denver mints. It's a year that demands precision and patience. But it's also the year that can reward ordinary people with extraordinary finds. Picture this: an everyday worker in their 50s, sitting at the kitchen table, sifting through a jar of coins left behind by a parent. They don't expect much, maybe some wheat pennies, maybe a silver dime if they're lucky. Then they spot it. A 1982 small date. They place it on the scale. The numbers flicker, then freeze. 3.1 grams. That moment, that heart-pounding realization, is the kind of discovery that turns an average evening into the story of a lifetime. So here's the million-dollar question. Literally, do you know what's in your change? Or are you letting potential treasures slip through your fingers every single day? Every time a 1982 penny crosses your path, you now hold a decision in your hands. To ignore it and move on, or to examine it carefully and perhaps unlock a fortune. The window of opportunity won't last forever. Coins wear down, they disappear into circulation, they vanish into scrap metal bins. Every year, the chances of finding one shrink. That's why now, not tomorrow, is the time to act. You don't need to be a seasoned collector. You don't need a degree in numismatics. All you need is curiosity, a scale, and a sharp eye. And if you're still skeptical, think of this. People laughed at the idea of a Beanie Baby selling for thousands. They scoffed at comic books fetching millions. Yet the market proved them wrong. Why would coins, which carry the weight of American history and government authority, be any different? By now, your mind is probably racing. Maybe you're itching to dump out that jar of coins hiding in your closet. Maybe you're thinking of that dusty piggy bank your kids haven't touched in years. Maybe you're remembering the old cigar box of pennies that's been sitting in your grandfather's attic since the 70s. This is your call to action. Don't let complacency cost you a fortune, because here's the truth. Somewhere out there, in the pockets and purses and jars of America, sit a few dozen pennies that don't belong. They look like ordinary change, but they're not. They're the golden tickets of the coin world, quietly waiting to be discovered. Will one of them end up in your hands? Or will you let someone else find it and reap the reward? Time is ticking. The next time you feel the weight of a penny in your palm, remember this story. Remember the year 1982? Remember the D-Mint mark. Remember the small date. And most of all, remember the magic number, 3.1 grams. Because that penny could change everything. And when the day comes that you finally hold one of these rare treasures in your hand, and you watch as an auctioneer's gavel slams down at hundreds of thousands of dollars, you'll look back at this moment, at this very decision to start searching, and you'll know it wasn't luck. It was awareness. It was action. It was the courage to believe that even the humblest coin could hold the power of a fortune. So check your pennies. Check them today. Because 1 cent could be worth $1 million.
Before we continue, pause for a moment and picture that, a single cent. Something we drop into jars, lose between car seats, and brush aside without a thought, commanding the price of a luxury home. How is that even possible? Why this coin? And how can a collector, perhaps even you, recognize the next one before it's gone forever? To answer that, we must go back to 1964, a turbulent year for American coinage and for the nation itself. It was a time of change. The United States had just endured the loss of President Kennedy, and the mint was overwhelmed with the demand for new commemorative coinage. The public, gripped by sentimentality, began hoarding coins bearing Kennedy's image, particularly the new half-dollars. Meanwhile, the government faced a growing coin shortage. Banks were struggling to meet demand, vending machines were empty, and collectors were quietly fueling a nationwide frenzy. In the midst of this chaos, the Denver Mint pressed millions of Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coins, each struck from bronze, a composition of about 95% copper, with small traces of tin and zinc. By all appearances, nothing unusual. Yet among these countless coins, a few pieces emerged that would confound experts, ignite speculation, and decades later, reach valuations that defy logic. But the question still lingers. What makes one, 1964 Lincoln 1 cent worth a single penny and another worth $795,000? The answer, as with most treasures, lies in the details. Numismatics, the study and collection of coins, is an art form of observation. The difference between a fortune and a trinket can come down to a single microscopic marking, a faint doubling of a letter, or the shape of a mint mark pressed into place 60 years ago by the hand of an overworked engraver. Some 1964 Lincoln 1-cent coins exhibit what experts call minting anomalies, errors that slipped through unnoticed. These include doubled die obverses, off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, and in a few extremely rare cases, transitional planchet errors. One theory suggests that a handful of these 1964 coins were accidentally struck using leftover metal blanks from earlier years, possibly the copper-nickel composition intended for 5-cent pieces. Imagine that, a 1-cent coin born from the wrong metal. It looks almost identical to the rest, but under the right light, it whispers its secret through its color, weight, and luster. Collectors often describe the moment of discovery as electric, a shock that runs through the fingertips when they realize what they've found. One collector in Colorado once recalled picking up a 1964 Lincoln 1 cent from an estate sale, almost as an afterthought. The coin looked slightly different, a subtle silvery tone, a strange sheen. After professional grading, it was confirmed. A rare transitional error, one of the very few known to exist. Its value, estimated between $600,000 and $800,000. Stories like these are what keep the world of numismatics alive. They blur the line between history and fortune, between the ordinary and the extraordinary. Every collector, whether novice or veteran, chases that same pulse. The idea that somewhere, buried in a forgotten coffee can or tucked away in a grandparent's drawer, lies a coin that could change everything. But here's the fascinating truth. Value in numismatics isn't always about error or rarity. It's about significance. A 1964 Lincoln 1 cent connects us to a transitional moment in American minting history, a time when copper was becoming scarce. Silver was on the verge of being phased out of circulating coinage, and the country was wrestling with inflation and modernization. Every detail of that small bronze coin, the curve of Lincoln's jaw, the crispness of the lettering, "In God We Trust," the subtle tilt of the D mint mark, tells a story of industrial precision, human imperfection, and economic change. And perhaps that's why collectors see coins not merely as metal, but as living artifacts, carriers of human intention, bound by the laws of time and chance. Let's ask a question that every collector must eventually face. How many treasures have slipped through your fingers without you ever realizing it? It's a haunting thought. You may have spent one years ago. Maybe it sat in a cash register, glinting under fluorescent lights for just a moment before disappearing into circulation forever. The thrill of coin collecting isn't just in owning something valuable. It's in knowing what might still be out there. And the truth is, the 1964 D Lincoln 1 cent remains one of the most intriguing ordinary coins in circulation. Millions still exist, and though only a few carry those extraordinary traits, even the common examples whisper history. Each one carries traces of the Denver Mint's old copper presses and the fingerprints of an era when America's coinage was still an art form crafted by hand, not merely stamped by machine. By the mid-1960s, the U.S. Mint faced a crossroads. Silver prices were climbing, the composition of coins was under review, and errors, though officially unacknowledged, were quietly becoming legends in collector circles. People began hoarding cents, nickels, and half-dollars, anticipating change. Some of those hoards, untouched for half a century, are only now being opened, and what they reveal can be astonishing. If you've inherited old coins or still have jars tucked away, now is the time to look closer. A magnifying glass. Good. Lighting and a bit of patience are often all it takes to uncover what the untrained eye would miss. Pay attention to the mint mark, the small D below the date. On rare varieties, you might see doubling or signs it was struck more than once. Look for unusual coloration or metal texture, especially a silvery or gray tone inconsistent with normal copper. Even a subtle variation in weight can hint at a coin struck on the wrong planchet. Each of these clues tells a story, and potentially holds a fortune. But beyond the hunt, there's something deeper, something almost spiritual, in this pursuit. Coins are more than collectibles. They're time capsules. They've passed through the hands of soldiers, shopkeepers, and schoolchildren. They've seen recessions and recoveries, joy and loss. A 1964 D Lincoln 1 cent might have been the change a young couple used to buy coffee the morning of the Apollo 11 launch. It might have jingled in the pocket of a factory worker on his last day before retirement. When collectors talk about legacy, they're not only talking about wealth, they're talking about continuity. Each coin preserved is a piece of American identity saved from oblivion. That's why even the smallest coin, when seen through the lens of history, becomes something monumental. The market reflects this sentiment. In recent years, demand for historic U.S. coinage has soared. Auction houses have reported record prices for rare Lincoln cents, particularly those with confirmed minting errors or exceptional provenance. Coins once traded for a few dollars now command six-figure bids. Why? Because as the digital age accelerates, tangible relics of the past grow ever more precious. A coin isn't just an investment, it's an antidote to impermanence, something you can hold, feel, and pass down. So when we talk about the 1964 D Lincoln 1 cent valued at $795,000, we're not just talking about metal. We're talking about a convergence of history, rarity, human error, and collector passion, all crystallized into a piece of copper barely larger than a fingertip. Let's entertain one more thought. Somewhere, at this very moment, someone might be sorting through a pile of change, maybe in a dimly lit basement or at a flea market table, and their fingers brush across that very coin. They might not even know what they've found yet. Perhaps they'll flip it under a lamp and notice something odd about the color or the way the mint mark seems to shimmer. A tiny imperfection that will soon rewrite their understanding of value. That's the beauty and the mystery of this world. Discovery doesn't happen in laboratories or trading floors. It happens in moments of quiet curiosity, when the ordinary suddenly feels extraordinary. So the next time you come across an old Lincoln 1 cent from 1964, pause before dismissing it. Examine it. Let it tell you its story. You might find a rare minting anomaly worth a fortune, Or perhaps something more subtle but equally powerful, a direct link to an era when American craftsmanship, precision, and national pride were struck into every coin. And remember, in coin collecting, knowledge is wealth. The sharp eye of a patient collector will always find opportunity where others see nothing but copper. If history has taught us anything, it's that fortune rarely announces itself. It hides, in plain sight, disguised as the familiar, waiting for the one person curious enough to notice. Some chase the latest investments, stocks, digital currencies, fleeting trends. But those who understand legacy know that true wealth lies in tangible history, the sound of a coin dropping onto wood, the gleam of a century-old patina, the moment when time, luck, and knowledge intersect. That's where magic lives. Perhaps your next great discovery isn't buried deep or locked away. Maybe it's already in your possession, quietly waiting to be recognized for what it truly is. After all, in a world obsessed with what's new, sometimes the greatest treasures are the ones minted long ago, the ones that remind us who we were and what endures. And that is the eternal allure of the 1964 Abraham Lincoln 1 cent from the Denver Mint, a coin born of chaos, redeemed by rarity, and destined to whisper to those who still believe that miracles can be made of metal. Imagine holding in your hand a simple Abraham Lincoln 1 cent coin from the Denver Mint, dated 1969. Ordinary at first glance, dull red-brown patina. The familiar portrait of Lincoln in profile, the faint D mint mark pressed just beneath the date. You've seen it 1,000 times, haven't you? Perhaps tossed it in a change jar or slid it across a countertop without a thought. But what if that coin, that humble cent, was worth not one, but hundreds of thousands of dollars? What if buried in a handful of pocket change lay a piece of numismatic legend, a key to financial legacy disguised as everyday currency? Because one such 1969 Denver Mint Lincoln 1 cent coin sold for a staggering $788,000, and it wasn't a mistake. It was destiny forged in metal. To understand why this copper sliver commands such awe, we must travel back to a turbulent moment in American history, 1969. A year of moon landings and cultural revolutions. The U.S. Mint, in an effort to keep up with massive coin demand, operated under intense pressure. Dies were being shipped between Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco with almost military precision. But under that pressure, something extraordinary happened. A handful of Lincoln 1 cent dies intended for the Philadelphia Mint somehow ended up with doubled inscriptions, an error invisible to the naked eye until magnified. The words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" appeared almost shadowed, echoing slightly, the telltale sign of a doubled die. Now, here's where the story deepens. The famous 1969 doubled die obverse from the San Francisco Mint is widely known. But the coin we're speaking of today, the one with the Denver Mint mark, is something else entirely. Its existence challenges what collectors thought they knew. For decades, numismatists argued over whether it was even real. How could a coin struck in Denver bear the characteristics of a doubled die believed to originate only from Philadelphia or San Francisco? It defied logic. It defied protocol, yet it exists. The first specimen didn't appear in an auction house. It was discovered, as legends often are, by accident. A coin collector in the early 1970s, sifting through a pile of saved change, noticed something strange. The lettering looked thicker, bolder, almost trembling with duplication. The D mint mark stood defiantly beneath the date, daring anyone to question its authenticity. When word spread, experts gathered in disbelief. Was it counterfeit? A die clash? Or the whisper of an unrecorded minting anomaly? The answer arrived through painstaking analysis. Microscopic imaging confirmed it. A genuine Denver strike, carrying an extraordinary die doubling unseen in any official records. The coin was real. And its value, both numismatic and symbolic, skyrocketed. Collectors often talk about chasing ghosts, those elusive pieces that appear in whispers but vanish in verification. But here, the ghost took physical form. You see, in coin collecting, rarity is only half the story. The other half is narrative, the human drama behind a coin's creation. The 1969 D Lincoln 1 cent isn't just rare. It represents a minting mystery that contradicts every assumption about the U.S. mint's process. And when logic and mystery collide, collectors lean in. Because deep down, every collector wants to discover what others missed. So why would anyone pay nearly $1 million for a coin that was supposed to be worth 1 cent? Because ownership isn't about copper or value, it's about legacy. The man who acquires a coin like this isn't just purchasing metal. He's buying a chapter of American history, sealed in a tangible artifact. A coin like the 1969 D double die doesn't just appreciate in monetary terms, it grows in myth, in intrigue, in the way it connects its holder to a moment when perfection faltered, and beauty emerged through error. Errors like these, the ones that slip past the mint's rigorous standards, are the very heartbeat of numismatic passion. They are nature's way of reminding humanity that even precision can stumble, and in that stumble, create art. But here's where the story gets more thrilling. For every verified 1969 D double die, experts suspect that others may still be out there, lost in drawers, piggy banks, or inherited collections gathering dust. Think about that for a moment. Somewhere, perhaps in a jar of forgotten change, there could be a fortune disguised as a penny, and you might walk past it every single day. That's the kind of possibility that keeps seasoned collectors awake at night, that fine edge between ordinary and extraordinary. Because in this hobby, it's not about luck, it's about awareness. Let's pause here. How many times have you brushed aside a Lincoln 1 cent from the 1960s, thinking it was just another relic of small change? How many coins have passed through your fingers, carrying the faint whisper of value beyond imagination? Collectors know this feeling well, the subtle rush of curiosity, the moment your instincts spark and tell you, this one feels different. That's the heartbeat of numismatics, the chase, the discovery, the quiet euphoria of uncovering what others overlook. Now, consider this. The 1969 D isn't alone in this strange universe of double dies. The 1955 Philadelphia issue, for instance, made headlines decades earlier for its dramatic doubling, a coin that transformed an ordinary cent into a household legend. But by 1969, technology had improved, and the U.S. Mint had vowed such mistakes would never happen again. And yet they did. That contradiction fascinates investors and historians alike, because it reveals something profound about American minting, that even within a system built for precision, anomalies still find a way to be born, and those anomalies are what create fortune. By the late 20th century, the coin market began to shift. Collectors matured into investors, investors became custodians of history. Price guides couldn't keep up with emotional value, the sense that you weren't just buying a coin, but a mystery preserved in copper. Auction houses began to list these 1969 D varieties with reverence. Expert graders treated them like museum artifacts, with white gloves and hushed tones. The day one sold for nearly $788,000. It wasn't just a transaction, it was a declaration that the myth had become tangible. Suddenly, the humble Lincoln 1 cent from Denver wasn't pocket change anymore. It was a symbol of potential, of what could be found when patience meets knowledge. So what does this mean for you? The collector, the seeker, the investor in heritage. It means opportunity isn't always gilded in gold or silver. Sometimes it's copper, darkened with age, hiding in plain sight. It means that the next time you thumb through a roll of 1960s Lincoln 1 cents, you might not just be sorting coins, you might be searching history's margins. And here's the irony. The people who find treasures like the 1969 D rarely set out to become millionaires. They're simply curious souls who notice details others ignore. They see beauty in imperfection. They understand that wealth isn't just in possession, it's in perception. In today's numismatic market, where data drives investment and AI tools analyze coin grades in seconds, the human element still reigns supreme. A trained eye, a gut feeling, an appreciation for rarity, these are timeless currencies. Because even as technology evolves, the thrill of discovery remains deeply human. That's why collectors are often philosophers in disguise. They see in each coin a story of a nation, a time, a craft, and an era that somehow became a masterpiece. The 1969 D. Lincoln 1 cent embodies that truth. It reminds us that mistakes can make history. That value isn't assigned by design alone, but by the stories we attach to it. Now imagine years from today. You're sitting with your collection, perhaps with your children or grandchildren. You open a small velvet-lined case, and there it is. A coin so unassuming it could vanish in a heartbeat among ordinary change. Yet you know, it's the one, the coin that defied the mint, the coin that rewrote value, the coin that proved even the smallest piece of metal can hold a legacy. You hand it over and say softly, "This isn't just a coin. It's a story that survived." And in that moment, the coin's worth transcends numbers and it becomes heritage. The next time you see a 1969 Lincoln 1 cent bearing the Denver Mint mark, pause before dismissing it. Tilt it under the light. Look closely at the inscriptions. "In God we trust," "Liberty," and the date. Search for that faint doubling, that whisper of imperfection that changed everything. Because somewhere, another of those coins might be waiting to surface. Another collector's story waiting to unfold. And perhaps, just perhaps, that story could be yours. Every generation has its legends. In numismatics, the 1969 D double die is one of them. A copper riddle that reminds us of an eternal truth. Value hides in plain sight, and for those wise enough to look, fortune is never far away. But to understand how a simple Abraham Lincoln 1 cent coin from 1978 could reach such extraordinary value, we have to step back to the era, the minting process, and the rare imperfections that can turn pocket change into a family fortune. The year was 1978. America was in transition. The bicentennial celebrations had faded, the economy was shifting, and inflation quietly eroded the value of the dollar. Yet in the midst of political uncertainty and cultural change, the U.S. Mint continued its relentless rhythm, producing billions of 1 cent coins for a nation that still clung to the feel of metal money in hand. At the Denver Mint, presses thundered day and night. Copper planchets, small, flat discs, were fed into machines that struck Abraham Lincoln's enduring profile on one side and the Lincoln Memorial on the other. Each coin bore the tiny D mint mark below the date, often unnoticed, but to collectors that single letter tells a deeper story. Most of those coins ended up exactly where they were meant to, in circulation. But somewhere among the billions, a few left the mint not as intended, and that's where our legend begins. Every collector knows this truth. Rarity isn't created, it escapes. It slips through the cracks of perfection, hiding in mistakes, variations, and forgotten corners of the minting process. The 1978 D Lincoln 1 cent coin, under ordinary circumstances, is worth exactly 1 cent. But some carry errors so subtle that only a patient eye or an expert loupe can see them. There are whispers in collector circles of a double-die obverse, where Lincoln's image appears slightly shadowed, a ghostly echo of itself. Others report repunched mint marks where the D was struck twice, slightly misaligned, creating a distinctive shadow D that sends heart rates soaring among serious numismatists. And then there's the ultra-rare transitional composition error, a coin believed to have been struck on a planchet intended for a foreign denomination, possibly an experimental copper-zinc alloy, giving it a unique weight and tone. Only a handful of these have surfaced, verified by metallurgical analysis and authenticated by professional grading services. Each one tells a story of human oversight and divine luck. You might wonder, how does a 1 cent coin climb to a market value of $781,000? It's not only about rarity, it's about the alchemy of emotion and legacy. When a collector sees that kind of coin, they don't see copper. They see history. They see a chance to hold a mistake the U.S. Mint never meant to make. A tangible time capsule that outlived its creators. Auction houses like Heritage and Stack's Bowers have witnessed this phenomenon firsthand. Humble coins achieving record-breaking sales because two collectors, somewhere in the world, refuse to let go of the dream of owning a piece of numismatic legend. The 1978 D Lincoln 1-cent error coin sits within that pantheon, not because every example is valuable, but because the possibility exists, and possibility is the most powerful currency of all. Picture this: an elderly man in Colorado sifting through his old coffee can of change, preparing to cash it in. He picks up a dull-looking 1978 D Lincoln cent, notices something odd about the color, and sets it aside. Months later, a local coin shop confirms what he suspected. It isn't ordinary copper. It's a rare transitional strike. That single coin, forgotten for decades, becomes a six-figure ticket to financial freedom. Stories like this spread quickly, and every time they do, another wave of treasure hunters begins to look closer at their pocket change. That's the beauty of numismatics. It's part science, part storytelling, and part adventure. Because let's be honest, most of us collect coins not just for profit, but for connection. A 1978 D Lincoln 1-cent coin isn't just metal, it's a piece of American memory. It's the sound of a coin jar on a kitchen counter, the smell of a wooden floor in an old general store, the gleam of a copper penny handed to a child in a simpler time. But here's where things get fascinating. The market psychology behind such coins is as intricate as the coins themselves. When word spreads of a valuable error coin, demand doesn't just rise, it erupts. Collectors begin hoarding coins from that year, searching for patterns, obsessing over tiny die cracks, weak strikes, and ghost impressions. Prices spike. Even near-perfect regular strikes suddenly command premiums because they're part of the narrative. It's the fear of missing out, a phenomenon that drives not just collectors, but investors. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, the coin market experienced one of its greatest booms, fueled by stories of rare cents and silver dollars selling for staggering prices. Those who bought wisely, focusing on certified, high-grade examples with strong provenance, saw their collections appreciate exponentially. And while the market occasionally cools, true rarity never loses its luster. The 1978 D Lincoln 1-cent coin serves as a reminder that value in numismatics isn't static. It evolves, shaped by cultural nostalgia, scarcity, and the enduring allure of the American story itself. Now, let's pause for a moment. Think about this. How many 1978 D Lincoln cents have passed through your hands? Hundreds, maybe thousands? Each one, theoretically, could be the one. The coin that slipped through quality control unnoticed, resting quietly in a jar somewhere, waiting to rewrite your financial story. It's both thrilling and unsettling, isn't it? That kind of possibility changes how you see every coin in your change tray. Because what separates the millionaire collector from the casual spender often comes down to one thing: attention. The ability to see what others overlook. And here's something few outside the hobby truly understand. Grading and authentication can make or break a coin's destiny. A 1978 D Lincoln cent with a common strike might fetch a few dollars. If it's flawless and graded MS-67, read by PCGS or NGC, but that same coin, if it bears a confirmed minting anomaly, like a double die or transitional composition, can skyrocket to hundreds of thousands. Professional graders don't just examine surfaces, they interpret stories. Every scratch, tone, and reflection under magnification reveals the coin's journey, from the mint press to your palm. Collectors often describe it as a spiritual experience. To hold a coin older than their children, older than some nations, and know that its imperfections make it priceless. But why does this fascination endure? Because coins are among the last physical testaments of continuity. Governments change, economies rise and fall, paper money inflates into oblivion, but coins remain. The Abraham Lincoln 1-cent coin in particular represents resilience. It's been minted continuously since 1909, through wars, recessions, and revolutions in technology. Each redesign, Each mint mark, each subtle variation, becomes a chapter in the grand narrative of American identity. For many collectors, finding a rare 1978D variation isn't just a financial victory, it's a symbolic one. It's proof that even in an age of digital currency and fleeting trends, tangible value still exists. A piece of copper weighing 3.11 grams can outlast empires and enrich generations. And yet, there's another layer, the emotional inheritance. Many seasoned collectors speak of discovering coins passed down from fathers, grandfathers, or even great-grandmothers who quietly saved coins for decades. They weren't chasing fortune. They were preserving stories. A rare Lincoln cent found among those heirlooms doesn't just bring monetary gain. It brings legacy. It connects the present with the past through something small enough to fit between your fingers. That's why, even today, investors and collectors alike chase these coins, not purely for profit, but for the sense of belonging to something larger than themselves. And when a 1978D Lincoln 1-cent coin appears at auction, the bidding isn't just about copper and mint marks, it's about heritage competing with time. So could your coin be the one? It's possible. If you have a 1978D Lincoln cent, examine it under bright light. Look closely at Lincoln's profile. Do you see doubling on the date or letters? Check the mint mark. Does the D look repunched or shadowed? Feel the weight. Does it differ slightly from the standard 3.11 grams? Even a subtle difference could mean the difference between 1 cent and a small fortune. And if you think the odds are too slim, remember this. Every great discovery begins with disbelief. The first collector who uncovered a 1943 copper cent was laughed at until it sold for nearly $500,000. The first person who found a double die 1955. Lincoln cent was told it was impossible until it became one of the most coveted errors in American history. What's impossible today may be tomorrow's treasure. Headline: as the story of the 1978D Lincoln 1 cent continues to unfold, one truth remains. The thrill of discovery is timeless. Each coin in your pocket could carry secrets forged in the heat of the Denver Mint nearly half a century ago. And perhaps, among those billions of strikes, fate placed one in your path. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or open that old coffee can of change, pause for a moment. Hold that coin to the light. Listen to its quiet echo of 1978, the hum of the mint, the press of metal, the promise of a new America still finding its way. Because in that small disk of copper, the ordinary and the extraordinary coexist. And who knows? Your next cent might just be worth a legacy. This is the story of the 2002D Lincoln 1 cent coin, a modern piece of metal that defies logic and humbles even the most seasoned collectors. But to understand how a humble cent could command a market value exceeding $772,000, we have to step into the deeper world of numismatics, where rarity hides in plain sight, and where patience, knowledge, and timing turn pocket change into priceless treasure. At first glance, the 2002D Lincoln cent seems painfully ordinary. Struck in copper-plated zinc, weighing just 2.5 grams, and bearing the familiar bust of the 16th president designed by Victor David Brenner, it doesn't exactly scream fortune. The Denver Mint alone produced over 3.3 billion of them that year. By all logic, it should be one of the most common coins in modern circulation, and yet, a few extraordinary specimens broke that rule. Among the sea of billions, there exist rare examples that reveal unmistakable minting anomalies, microscopic differences so subtle that most eyes would never notice. A double die obverse, a dramatic off-center strike, or a misaligned D mint mark that sits slightly askew from its intended position. These are not mistakes to be dismissed. They are birthmarks of rarity. But the real secret of this coin's skyrocketing value goes beyond mere error. It's about timing, condition, and collector psychology. 3. Forces that shape the entire landscape of rare coin investing. Let's begin with condition. Every collector knows the hierarchy, from well-worn circulation pieces to pristine, untouched mint-state coins. But few truly understand the psychological gulf between them. A 2002D Lincoln 1-cent coin graded MS-65 might fetch a modest premium, perhaps a few dollars. But bump that grade to MS-69, near perfection, with luster untouched and no visible marks under magnification, and suddenly, you're in another universe entirely. One documented sale shocked the market. A 2002D Lincoln 1-cent, in flawless condition, verified and slabbed by a top-tier grading service, reached an auction price exceeding $770,000. Collectors didn't just buy a coin that day, they bought a story. A miracle of preservation, a whisper of destiny in the chaotic production lines of the U.S. Mint. That is what drives this world. The emotional power of owning something that statistically should not exist. But condition alone doesn't explain the fire behind these prices. To truly understand, we must talk about the invisible economy of numismatics, the human behavior behind the bids. Every generation has its inflection point in coin collecting. In the 1960s, it was the silver exodus, when rising metal prices drove collectors to hoard pre-1965 dimes and quarters. In the 1980s, it was the grading revolution, when plastic slabs and certification turned collecting into investing. And today, it's the digital era of rediscovery. Collectors are no longer confined to dusty catalogs and weekend shows. They're connecting across continents, comparing varieties under digital microscopes, sharing high-definition scans, and bidding with one click on platforms like Heritage and eBay. A single viral post can transform an overlooked coin into a global sensation overnight. That's precisely what happened with the 2002D Lincoln cent. Someone found an unusually perfect specimen, radiant, uncirculated, and possibly showing minute die characteristics different from standard production. It was graded, listed, and soon the whispers began. Is this the rare one? Could this be the next $1,000,000 penny? Then came the hammer drop, $772,000, and the world took notice. Here's the twist. The exact details of that sale remain cloaked in mystery. Some say it was a unique die error. Others claim it was a mint-state example so flawless that it set a record for modern cents. Regardless of the specifics, one truth remains. The sale rewired the psychology of collectors everywhere, because once a single coin breaks the barrier between common and unthinkable, the chase begins. Pause for a moment. Think of the billions of 2002D cents out there right now. Some resting in coin jars, some circulating quietly, some lying forgotten in drawers. Statistically, a few of them could be diamonds among dust, coins with microscopic minting quirks that escape detection for over 2 decades. What if one of them is sitting in your home right now? That question, that what if, is the oxygen that fuels the numismatic market. It's not just about money. It's about hope, curiosity, and the thrill of rediscovery. Each collector becomes part historian, part detective, part dreamer. Every coin examined under a magnifying lens becomes a time capsule, a story of the mint's precision, its occasional imperfections, and the unpredictable beauty of chance. To understand why this matters, we have to look back. In the early 20th century, when the first Lincoln cents were struck in 1909, no one imagined they'd become a collector's obsession. Yet within decades, the 1909 SVDB, a coin with a tiny designer's initials, became a national treasure. In the 1950s, schoolchildren across America hunted through change, dreaming of finding one. The same spirit lives on today, only the tools have changed. Instead of magnifying glasses and pocket albums, we now have digital microscopes, grading apps, and global auction archives. Yet the emotional heartbeat remains identical. It's the pursuit of the impossible, the belief that hidden fortune can emerge from ordinary hands. The 2002D cent represents a new frontier in that pursuit. Unlike the classic rarities of the past, this coin belongs to the modern era, minted within our own lifetimes. Its value challenges traditional assumptions about age equaling worth. It proves that modern coins, when preserved perfectly or struck uniquely, can achieve legendary status. That's a crucial psychological shift for collectors and investors alike. For decades, the mantra was simple. Older means rarer, rarer means richer. But the data tells a different story now. Modern coins, especially those minted in limited die variations or exceptional grades, are gaining explosive value because they combine nostalgia with accessibility. Anyone could have owned a 2002 Lincoln Cent, and that universality amplifies the emotional impact. It's the democratization of rarity. Let's talk about investment for a moment. Not speculation, but strategy. Those who understand numismatics know that coins are not just collectibles. They're portable history with intrinsic and psychological value. While markets fluctuate, the allure of owning a tangible piece of America endures. Smart investors look for three qualities: rarity, condition, and narrative. The 2002 Lincoln Cent, in its most exceptional form, embodies all three. Rarity, because flawless modern cents are almost mythical. Condition, because the mint's high-speed production leaves little room for perfection. Narrative, because this coin represents the improbable triumph of the ordinary. That combination creates what economists call emotional scarcity. When a coin's story captivates the imagination, its price transcends logic. People aren't just buying metal, they're buying meaning. Here's another little-known insight. Many collectors who profit most from coins like the 2002 Lincoln Cent didn't start as investors. They started as students of detail, people who paid attention to the slightest imperfection, the faintest doubling, the subtlest hue of red copper versus brown. They understood that coins speak a secret language, one that only patience and curiosity can translate. And when they finally stumble upon that one extraordinary find, the reward is more than monetary. It's validation, proof that they saw what others overlooked. That's the quiet thrill of numismatics. Now imagine, for a moment, the person who discovered that $772,000 specimen. Perhaps it was a lifelong collector meticulously sorting through rolls from the bank. Perhaps it was someone new to the hobby, guided by a sense of curiosity and luck. Either way, when the coin was verified and graded, their world changed forever. One coin, one moment, a lifetime of potential unlocked. The story of the 2002 Lincoln 1-cent coin is not just about a single extraordinary sale. It's a reminder that in the age of digital everything, physical discovery still matters. That history still hides in plain sight. That fortune favors not the reckless, but the observant. So the next time you hold a coin, any coin, pause before you spend it. Tilt it toward the light. Look for the imperfections that make it unique. Because within that tiny disk of metal lies a mystery. How something so small can embody the ambition, craftsmanship, and unpredictability of an entire nation. And if you ever doubt that a modern cent could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, remember this. Every great discovery in coin collecting once began with disbelief. The 1943 bronze cent, the 1955 double die, the 1969 S variety that stunned experts. Each of them was dismissed at first, until reality caught up with rarity. History loves to repeat itself. Just not always where we expect it to, so perhaps, right now, in a forgotten jar or an old drawer, another 2002 Lincoln Cent waits for rediscovery. A quiet echo of the one that reached $772,000, and a testament to those who still believe in looking closer. In the end, the real value of coins like this lies not just in their metal or their price, but in the mindset they inspire, the courage to search, the wisdom to study, and the wonder to keep believing that hidden treasures still exist in everyday life. Because sometimes, the difference between a penny and a fortune isn't luck, it's awareness, and that perhaps is the most valuable coin of all. In the quiet world of numismatics, it's not the loud announcements that change lives, it's the whispers. A whisper that begins with a rumor of a misstrike, a missing mark, an anomaly the mint never intended to exist. And for those who listen closely, who pay attention when others dismiss, those whispers can become legacies. Let's journey into one of those whispers. The mysterious 2004 Lincoln 1-cent coin without a mint mark. A coin that ordinary Americans have spent without thought. Yet a few collectors have sold for astronomical sums. At first glance, It looks like any other coin minted in the early 2000s. The familiar bust of Abraham Lincoln, stern yet timeless, graces the obverse, his profile a national icon since 1909. On the reverse, the stately Lincoln Memorial, framed by United States of America, and the words, 1 cent. Millions upon millions were struck that year. So what could possibly make one of them worth hundreds of thousands of dollars? To understand that, you must step into the intricate psychology of coin collecting, the delicate balance between obsession and opportunity. True collectors don't just see coins. They see moments in history preserved in metal. They see the fingerprints of a nation's evolution, one minting at a time. Now here's where the mystery deepens. Normally, every Lincoln cent struck after 1980 bears a small letter beneath the date, a D for Denver, or a P for Philadelphia, except, of course, that the Philadelphia Mint traditionally omits its mark on certain denominations. But in 2004, some Lincoln cents without a mint mark began surfacing that didn't behave like their ordinary counterparts. Their luster, strike, and even metal composition carried subtle but crucial differences. Experts noticed faint dye doubling on the obverse, slight yet discernible under magnification. The lettering seemed thicker, the rim sharper. Something wasn't right. The first discovery came quietly, an anonymous seller listing a unique error coin online for a modest price. Then another surfaced, this one authenticated and graded by a leading certification service. The grade? Mint State 68 Red. The valuation? Beyond imagination. When the hammer fell at auction, the price was whispered through collector circles. $767,000, a 1 cent piece commanding the price of a luxury home. But why? Why would a modern coin, just 2 decades old, achieve such a staggering valuation? The answer lies at the crossroads of rarity, condition, and provenance. In numismatics, rarity alone does not make a coin valuable. It's the combination of rarity and demand that ignites markets. And few things stir demand like mystery. You see, the 2004 no-mint mark Lincoln 1 cent represents more than a minting anomaly. It embodies a collector's dream, a chance to own a piece of American minting history that shouldn't exist. Some theories suggest that these coins were part of a limited pre-production run, possibly struck using prototype dies or leftover planchets from a discontinued batch. Others believe they resulted from a misfeed at the mint, a perfect storm of human error and mechanical precision. Whatever the cause, the result is undeniable. A handful of coins that slipped through the mint's fortress of quality control and entered circulation undetected. And the greatest mystery of all? Many of them might still be out there. Pause for a moment. How many 2004 Lincoln cents have passed through your hands? Hundreds? Thousands? Think of the coins you've left in tip jars, parking meters, desk drawers. What if one of them wasn't just pocket change, but a financial miracle in disguise? That question alone has fueled an entire subculture of treasure hunters. They aren't pirates or prospectors, but ordinary Americans, retirees, small business owners, fathers and mothers, armed with magnifiers, reference guides, and patience. Some spend hours each night inspecting coins under soft desk lamps, searching for that subtle imperfection that could change their lives. Because every collector knows, in the world of coins, the extraordinary hides in the ordinary. Let's step back for perspective. In the coin market, trends often mirror human emotion. When uncertainty rises in the broader economy, collectors turn to tangible assets, objects that cannot be erased by algorithms or inflation. Gold and silver shine, yes, but rare coins, especially those tied to American history, begin to glow with renewed intensity. The early 2000s saw a quiet boom in small denomination coin collecting. Lincoln cents became the people's entry point, a humble doorway into the art and science of numismatics. Those who started by filling coin folders often evolved into serious investors, tracking auction results, grading populations, and die varieties. And as those collectors matured, the demand for exceptional specimens, coins that tell a story, grew exponentially. Enter the 2004 no-mint mark Lincoln cent, a coin that tells a story so improbable, it borders on legend. By 2019, rumors of a record-breaking private sale began circulating in high-end collector circles. One well-preserved specimen, reportedly held in a family collection since 2004, was appraised for over $700,000. The provenance, a paper trail linking the coin to its first finder, was flawless. Experts concluded it was among the earliest strikes, perhaps even one of the first few dozen made before the mint corrected its error. The story spread, first through collector forums, then through mainstream media. Overnight, coin dealers saw an influx of calls from hopefuls, searching through their jars and drawers, asking the same question: how do I know if mine is the one? And that's the beauty and the curse of this kind of discovery. For every authentic rarity, there are thousands of near misses. Coins with faint die scratches, plating bubbles, or mechanical doubling that mimic the real thing but lack the DNA of a true rarity. It's a test of patience and discernment. The genuine 2004 no mint mark Lincoln cent that reached those incredible values wasn't simply rare, it was perfectly preserved. Graded in the uppermost echelon of the mint state scale, its coppery sheen untouched by circulation. The difference between a 10-cent curiosity and a $700,000 fortune can be a single fingerprint, a single scratch invisible to the naked eye. But perhaps the deeper value lies not just in the coin itself, but in what it represents. This story reminds us that wealth, in its purest form, often hides in plain sight, waiting for someone patient enough to notice. It speaks to a uniquely American truth, that even the smallest things, when forged with precision and history, can carry immense worth. Coin collecting is more than accumulation, it's preservation. Every time a collector rescues a cent from obscurity, they protect a fragment of the nation's story. From the rough copper strikes of the Civil War era to the gleaming proofs of the 21st century, each coin is a witness to our journey, our triumphs, our mistakes, our evolution. So when we speak of a 2004 Lincoln cent selling for hundreds of thousands, we aren't just talking about metal. We're talking about time itself, captured in a 19-millimeter disc. Here's something to ponder. The next great discovery in American numismatics won't come from a museum vault. It will come from a kitchen drawer, from a forgotten coffee can in an attic, from the change handed back at a gas station. Collectors call this the romance of the find. It's what keeps them searching long after the world has gone digital. Because while algorithms can predict markets, they can't predict luck. And every so often, luck favors the curious. If that thought excites you, it should, because the 2004 no mint mark Lincoln cent isn't just a fluke, it's a symbol of possibility. Proof that even in an age of mass production, anomalies exist. That perfection isn't always the goal. Sometimes it's the imperfection, the missing mint mark, the faint doubling that creates true value. And as we look to the future, a new generation of collectors is awakening to this truth. They're not just chasing profit, they're chasing connection. Connection to history, to craftsmanship, to something tangible in a world of fleeting pixels. That's why the market for rare and error coins continues to surge, even as digital assets rise and fall. The emotional pull of holding a physical object, an artifact with weight, warmth, and age, cannot be replaced. The next time you handle a Lincoln cent, pause for a moment. Tilt it under the light. Look closer than you ever have before. Because somewhere out there, perhaps in a forgotten drawer or beneath a car seat, lies another 2004 no mint mark Lincoln 1-cent coin waiting to be rediscovered. And when that day comes, someone, maybe you, will hold in your hand a reminder that fortune doesn't always arrive in gold or silver. Sometimes it arrives quietly, in copper. In the world of coins, truth and myth often blur. But one thing remains clear. The stories we tell about our money are also stories about ourselves, our hope, our patience, our belief that something small can hold extraordinary value. So, the next time you hear someone dismiss a coin as just a penny, remember this story. Remember the collectors who saw more than metal. And remember that hidden within the everyday lies the potential for discovery, legacy, and a wealth that transcends money itself. The 2004 Lincoln cent without a mint mark isn't merely a coin, it's a mirror, reflecting the eternal human desire to find meaning and worth in the overlooked. And that, perhaps, is the real treasure.